What's up guys, and welcome back to another PSO2 video. So in today's video, we're actually going to cover my new skill tree that I'm running with since the release, or since the level 90 patch. Now, I've had the idea for the skill tree for a while now. I knew we were going to get 5 more points roughly, and I had what I wanted to work with in mind. So I'm actually making this video shortly after hitting 90-90. I haven't been playing a ton of PSO2 for leveling specifically. I mean, you could be 90-90 really fast. Let me just... Seeing mail just bothers me. And hopefully none of you guys sent me any messages. Okay, cool. No. Sometimes that happens, and I like to at least read them. But anyway, so I haven't really been working on leveling too hardcore. I just hit 90-90. I had worked on some other classes, some other ideas of things I wanted to do. I briefly played around with the idea of going bouncer fighter, but for the way I play bouncer, which is dual blade only, really wouldn't affect much. And I kind of wanted in a way of getting to keep Iron Will while also getting fighter as a sub, which isn't really a thing. So us without your without your After EX weapon, which to be fair, I don't have. In case anyone's wondering, this is my current palette that I'm running for this at the moment. I'm just using, I guess it's an Atlas. I swear it was called an Atra before, but it's an Atlas that is 7 slotted, double edge, offensive intent twice, and vampiric strike. So I do have healing on this weapon with a grace power, power 4, and act the soul. And then I do have a rainbow palette now. I'm not sure if I mentioned it in one of my last videos or not, but I do have a rainbow palette that is all 6 slotted. I'm probably gonna swap this, but it's using Radiant Strike 2 right now. I think I'm gonna go with offensive intent 2 again for all of these, but Radiant Strike, or double edged sword, Radiant Strike 2, offensive intent, and then Doom Break, power, and act for every single one of these, and I do have one in every element. So not a bad setup, very useful. Plus I like being able to tell my weapon element just by switching, so that's cool. But before we get into rambling on too long, so this skill tree is the one I've been running. I have been running for just about everything, and it is changed since my last skill tree, my 85-85 skill tree, quite a bit actually. So I've been focusing on just pure damage, as much damage as I could get, going with dual blades only. And this is what I have come up with. Now, the major differences on my previous tree, you'll probably notice right off the bat, is I don't have crit element, or sorry, not crit element, I'm thinking Monster Hunter. Elemental stance critical and break stance critical maxed out. What I do have maxed out, however, are of course the S attack bonuses. Per normal, we have our high level bonus, which is extremely well to have on all classes. You shouldn't really be without it. It's dumb to not have it. But it's really the only notable changes for the bouncer tree. The bigger changes came with the hunter portion of this. So I do have multiple trees, and as you can see, there is one checked next to IW plus NGU, which is Iron Will plus Never Give Up. So I have dropped Automate Half-Line, which I always said over and over again to myself, I don't know how people are going to be able to do this and survive your weapon. I dropped I dropped Automate Half-Line or Iron Will Never Give Up. Mainly because I was kind of getting a little frustrated with Omega Masquerade. I've been doing Omega Masquerade runs, currently above level 50 on Omega Masquerade. I know people are higher, but I haven't been doing them every single day. I've just been doing them when I get some free time. And I found that Omega Masquerade got to a point where he actually got rid of all of my healing items. And there are moments where he catches me, or there's just too much damage incoming too quickly, where an Iron Will proc would come up, and sometimes it'd save me and sometimes I'd die. But the biggest thing was I wasn't struggling to stay alive unless those big hits came. And when those big hits came, that's where I really found a problem trying to stay alive. So I dropped Automate Half-Line as just an experiment to see how well Iron Will Never Give Up works. Not so much for the whole, surviving with 1 HP at a 75% chance, so 25% chance of dying, but more so for the proc of 15 seconds of plus 300 S attack, which really made a difference. It increased my runs by about a solid 3 minutes. It decreased the amount of time my runs took by about a solid 3 minutes, because to be honest, sometimes you just get an Iron Will proc. Sometimes you just take too much damage, and since my weapons that I was using are running Vampiric Strike, my light weapons are, it just made sense. I'm just going to have that healing anyway. I'm not really struggling to survive over time, which Automate Half-Line does help you with. If you're trying to survive over time, Automate Half-Line does help out quite a bit. But since I'm a bouncer, I can Megiverse myself. I also have healing. Honestly, before I even switched over to my Atra, or my Atlas, I guess you call it, I was actually still fine with using Iron Will Never Give Up and just using Megiverse for healing, because you really don't have to worry too much about dropping down low and taking too much damage. In situations where I'm going to take a ton of damage, I can just charge up a Megiverse and mostly just tank through it. Occasionally the damage will get too high, Iron Will proc and I'll die or something along those lines. So deaths have been a little bit more prevalent, but I've seen a lot more success in things like Omega Masquerade and content where I feel like I'm being pushed to the limit of what my class can actually perform. So that's mostly the biggest change, is we dropped Automate Half-Line. There could be an argument, honestly, for going for Massive Hunter. I do feel like that might be a good idea. Just because you're going to tank some damage every once in a while, and having the damage reduction is really nice. And protection against not being knocked back in other PAs. I know things like Kestrel, you really don't have to worry too much about being the knockbacks, but there are other PAs you have to worry about getting knocked back on. But I just went full into as much damage as I could possibly pull from this tree. Now you're probably wondering, you went into some of your critical on Bouncer, why not on Fighter? And that's because Hunter. That's because Hunter, I could still pull S attack from other locations. When you're looking at it from the perspective of not gaining extra damage off of crits, like the way my current build is set up, I'm not really getting much out of increasing my critical rate. When I crit, it's even better, because of course it closes that gap from doing minimal damage to maximum damage. If you're unaware, when you're watching this video, but crit in Final Fantasy, too many games playing at once. Crit in PSO2 is specifically taking your damage window. For example, if you could do between 5 to 10 damage. If you crit, you do that 10 damage maximum every time. So increasing your crit to 100% means you're always doing that maximum. So it does theoretically increase your DPS, but it does not increase your maximum DPS. So that's something to keep in mind. And with Hunter, I could still get more points of S attack at the time. Though minimal, I could still get more. So I'd rather take those minimal gains over that crit that I'm possibly already going to get anyway. Maybe in the future when we get more points, I can look into that sort of stuff. So we can look into things like Fury Critical, and then of course, maxing out the S attack bonus. But as far as Hunter goes, I went for everything that I could do to push my S attack to its limit for dual blades. And of course, Bouncer was the same way. It's maxed out on S attack completely, have everything else I need, and then after getting everything I needed, the last 5 points went into Break Stance Critical and Elemental Stance Critical. Now, one thing to note as well, I think I had points in just Reversal PP gain, not really seeing any use out of it, so I dropped that. It might have been in the last video, I'm not sure if I remember if I did mention it or not, but I did drop that. As well as for Step, I know I mentioned this in the last video, but for those who didn't watch that and are watching just this one, 3 points in Step Advance plus 2 points in Step Advance, they do stack. So 3 points in your main, 2 points in your subclass, or vice versa, will get you to the maximum Step Advance. The reason I do it that way, I'll show you guys really quick here. Hang on a second. Go capture. Pull this over for myself so I can see it better. So Step Advance goes from 1 giving you 0.5 up to 10 points giving you, 1 giving you 0.05 up to 10 points giving you 0.2. Now notice each level that you gain in Step Advance decreases how much of a benefit you gain up to between level 4 and level 5, you only gain 0.01 per level you put into it. So by spreading them out between the two, you're actually getting your full benefit. And what the game doesn't tell you is the maximum you can get is 0.2. By maxing out both of these, it does not get any better. They don't stack up any higher. They only stack to the actual cap. So 2 points here gives you 0.09. 3 points here, which gives us 0.11, maxes out at 0.2. So we get our theoretical, or we get our cap itself, which is great for activating dodge auto field when you don't want to weapon action through something and lose blades for no reason. One other note to make really quick. I was unaware of this before, but since the changes to the the changes to the skills being on our skill tree, we have extra room for rings for units. So I did add in some rings to my units themselves. I have Party Toughness, Mag Excite, but specifically Photon Blade Homing. Actually, I've added onto the list, and a Photon Blade Homing ring does increase your blade damage by 8%. And I have seen a substantial damage increase when it comes to just switching these things up overall. So this is what's worked best for me. If you guys have any questions, feel free to toss them in the comments. That's really all that's changed for the most part. Other than that, I am running my Atlas or Atra over my like plus 31 Jupiter Tullus that I was running beforehand, because it just has been a damage increase overall, plus survivability, and I'll be turning it into a 15-star. So not sure what we'll be doing with the light stream weapons just yet. When I get a hold of one and test it out, I will let you guys know what I think. But thanks for joining me on another one, and I'll see you guys next time.